Hey, Brian Young here. Thank you so much for purchasing the Proven Book Sourcing course. I'm so excited for you because I really feel like the time and energy and money that you're going to put into this material is really going to help you build a fantastic book selling business on Amazon. Now, in this introductory series, I'm going to cover a variety of topics. I'm going to start off by just giving you some background information about me, my family, and my family's business. And the reason for this is I know personally it's really hard for me to trust the advice of others if I don't have any context. If the person that I'm listening to, they don't have any credibility in my mind, it's hard for me to take them very seriously. And so what I'm going to do in this segment of the series is I'm going to just share with you my story and my numbers, and hopefully that'll give you some confidence in the things that I'm going to be teaching you in this course. Next, I'm going to explain to you my business philosophy. Now, I think I'm different than like 90% of Amazon sellers. I think just my approach to business, how we run our companies, our goals are much different. So I'm going to explain to you how we're different. Next, I'm going to help you I'm going to create a vision of what I want you and your company to look like. I want you to have a goal, more than just selling books on Amazon and making a profit. And then finally, I'm going to give you an overview of the course. So I'm just going to very quickly show you what's included in the course and the most logical way that I would recommend that you proceed studying the course. So let's jump right into it. My name is Brian Young, and I live in southeastern Minnesota, the plains of Minnesota, kind of out in a rural area. We actually live in a town of 344 people. It's kind of like a little suburb. I grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis and St. Paul, but got married, moved down here to Minnesota, and I really like it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the kind of life is kind of slowed down. There's not much traffic, even during, quote unquote rush hour. I mean, it's hardly, you're going the speed limit, so there's nothing to complain about, and I really like that. And when you're running an Amazon business, you can live wherever you want. Obviously, you got to have some access to some product and some inventory, but it just gives you so much freedom to be able to roam around. And I really feel like for me, there's no better place that I'd rather be to raise a family than down here. So here is a picture of my family. I'm a homeschooling father of 7, so 4 boys and 3 girls. And for Halloween this year, we dressed up like minions. I was Gru. My wife is actually holding the baby back there too, I believe. So in 2012, I got inspired. I read these 3 books, amongst some other things, and it really changed my mindset. My paradigm shifted. My worldview took a radical step in a different direction. I read Jim Cockrum's book, The Silent Sales Machine. I don't know if you have read this book or not. I'm assuming if you've bought this course, you probably have read that book. But if you haven't read that book, if you're one of the few that hasn't read that book, I highly recommend picking it up and reading it. I still remember some of the quotes in that book to this day. I mean, I took one quote and I put it on the mirror in my bathroom, and I'd read it every single day when I got up. And it said, "People with skills work for people with ideas. Be an idea person." And just the wisdom behind that statement has really been an encouragement to me over the years. Then I also read the book called The Second Mayflower by Kevin Swanson. And in his book, he talks about the sad state of our society, kind of how our society has taken a turn for the worse in so many different moral areas. But then he also provides hope. He says that he instilled in me the importance of having a unified family, building a home-based economy. Those are 2 terms that he has in his book that have really stuck with me. Again, the idea of building a home-based business that brings the family together, that unifies the family, as opposed to what most families do these days is they're very segmented. Dad goes off to work. He does his thing all day. Mom oftentimes has to work too. She goes and does her thing all day, and the kids are out in public school. And it's like they're so separate. I mean, they're living their lives basically independent of each other. And so the vision that he put into my mind was, I need to unify my family. If there's any way possible that I can bring everybody home, I should do it. It's that important. And then finally, the book Family Shepherds by Vodi Bakum just instilled within me my responsibility as a dad and as a husband. And just kind of really a kick in the pants, but an encouragement to me to step up my game. So I recommend all 3 of those books. If you haven't read them, I highly, highly recommend it. But all those books, including, especially The Second Mayflower, instilled within me the importance of spending not only quality time with my kids, but quantity time with them. I mean, I'm a man of faith. And so I'm going to quote some scripture here, but I don't want you, if you're not a Christian, I don't want you to be put off by it. Even if you're not a believer, even if you're not a Christian, you can still find value and wisdom and practicality in the scriptures. And so it says in Deuteronomy that we should teach God's law to our children. when they sit down in the house, when they walk by the way, and when they lie down, and when they rise. So essentially all day long. When our kids get up in the morning to when our kids go to bed, we should be there teaching them good morals and ethics. And so that ran contrary to what the culture said. I mean, even amongst Christian families, it was, the dad would go away, he'd work 8 hours, be gone for 9. And so there's a little bit of time there in the evenings for him to interact and disciple and encourage and train his children. And then obviously on the weekends. But people are busy, and especially when your kids get a little older, they might be doing things on the nights and weekends that don't involve, sitting on dad's lap and learning from dad's knowledge and wisdom. And so I just was convicted that it's really important for us, my wife and I, to be home to train and educate and encourage and disciple our children. But then I was also convicted about my role specifically, because we homeschool our kids. I think in the homeschooling community, if you homeschool yourself, I know a lot of Jim's group does, it's pretty commonplace for the Christian family to have dad work outside of the home, but mom stay home and educate the children. And she's the full-time stay-at-home mom and educator. And that's a great thing. But as I was reading the scriptures, I found that, dad should be playing a major role in the training and education of their children. In fact, if you look at the book of Proverbs, which is just basically a book of wisdom, and everybody can benefit from the book of Proverbs, regardless of your faith, regardless of your religious background. But you hear it time and time again. It says, "Hear, O son, a father's instruction." It says, "My son, do not forget my teachings, but let your heart keep my commandments." It also says things like Proverbs 5, verse 1, "My son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding." And even in Ephesians, which is the book in the New Testament, says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." So what I was learning is that not only am I responsible for training and educating my children, but I should be doing that all day long if possible. Now I know, depending on where you're at in life, there's some vocations that require the dad to leave the home. But I think for the bulk majority of Americans, they should take these admonitions seriously. So my mission, wrapping up the 2012 year, was to bring mom and dad home. Because at the time I was working full-time and my wife was working part-time. The goal was for neither of us to work so that we can maximize our time at home with our family. We only have our children in our care for a finite amount of time. And so I think it's incumbent upon us. It's highly recommended that we do all that we can to maximize our time with our kids while we still have the chance. So in 2013, I quit my job and began selling books part-time on Amazon. So I'd spend just a few hours a day, probably about 20 hours a week working on this Amazon selling business. I was the full-time stay-at-home dad. My wife went from just working a couple days a week to working 0.8 at the Mayo Clinic in radiology. She just made more money per hour than I did, so it made more sense for her to work 0.8 than for me to work full-time, and then also try to do this business thing. But again, the goal was for us to build up enough equity, enough to prove this model enough so that we could both quit our jobs, or she could quit her job rather, in 2014. So at the end of 2013, with just a part-time effort, we did $98,000 in gross sales, and we were very excited. So 2014, in January, right at the beginning of the year, mom came home. She quit her job. And really, $98,000 in sales is great, but she was leaving a very lucrative job. She's getting paid very well per hour, plus she had a nice benefits package and retirement plan. And so it really took a lot of faith for us, to feel like we were doing the right thing, but it definitely was a leap of faith for us to leave the comforts and security of a corporate job to come home and to raise a family together and to try to make our money selling stuff on Amazon. 2014, we kind of moved into retail arbitrage as well as books. So we continued to do books throughout the year, but then we also went into retail stores and bought clearance items off the shelf and then flipped them and sold them on Amazon for a profit. At the end of 2014, we did $298,000 in sales, so just under $300,000, and we were pretty thrilled. Now, one of the goals of running the Amazon business was to unify the family. But we found out really quick that the kids weren't really interested in being a part of the business. In fact, our oldest daughter, in 2015 was 12, and we had, kids all the way down to a newborn. So most of the kids were really young, and they couldn't really help out with the business, and it was taking a lot of our time. I mean, any of you have done $300,000 in sales, and you're doing it alone or you're doing it with a spouse, that's a lot of work. So we thought maybe, instead of using the business as a catalyst to bond for our family, maybe what we could do is we could just just use the business to make us money, and then we could come up with our own opportunities to hang out with the kids and enjoy them and train them and educate them and take trips and travel with them and that sort of thing. So 2015 was mostly about outsourcing. Actually, in the middle of 2014, we started to outsource our book selling business. We hired a person to do some book sourcing for us. So his job was to go to the thrift stores and the library sales and buy books. And then we had him become the book sales manager, and he hired somebody to do book listing. So he'd buy the books and drop it off at the book lister's house. And eventually we worked out a system so that he could manage the entire operation. So, one time we had 4 to 5 book sourcers and 3 book listers working at the same time in connection with each other. And then this book sales manager, who's also doing a little bit of sourcing on the side, was managing the whole operation. Also, to the beginning of 2015, we hired a full-time guy to run our retail arbitrage business. And his job was to do the retail arbitrage shopping, and I was going to do some shopping. And then we were going to come together once a week, one day a week, and do the shipping together. But he did really well, and actually after the first couple months, he was maximizing our sourcing budget and doing all the shipping himself. And in 2015, business was very blessed. We did $780,000 in gross sales to round off 2015. So my mission now, the reason why you're hearing my voice, the reason why I put this course together is because I want to help others, other families, other individuals find the lifestyle and financial freedoms that we've found selling physical products on Amazon.